Independent Government of Western Thrace. The independent government of Western Thrace was a small, short-lived unrecognized republic established in Western Thrace from August 31 to October 25, 1913. It encompassed the area surrounded by the rivers Maritsa, Evros, in the east, Mista, Nestos, in the west, the Rhodope Mountains in the north and the Aegean Sea in the south. Its total territory was c. 8.600 square kilometers. The whole of Western Thrace was captured by Bulgaria during the First Balkan War and awarded to the country by the Treaty of London. During the Second Balkan War, the Greek army captured most of the area between Skja and the Maritsa River south of Soflu without encountering resistance by the weak Bulgarian army, which retreated to the southern slopes of the Rhodope Mountains, several kilometers to the north of Skja and Gümülcine, while the Ottoman forces occupied the regions of Soflu, Dimatica, and Ortaköy. After the Second Balkan War, the Treaty of Bucharest was signed, which returned the area to Bulgaria, and the Greek army withdrew from Western Thrace. Thereupon local Muslims and Greeks petitioned, with the encouragement of the Greek authorities, refused to recognize the Bulgarian control of the area and petitioned the Ottoman army to occupy Western Thrace. On their invitation, the region was then occupied by small Ottoman forces, largely irregulars. While the area had been returned to Bulgaria by the Bucharest Treaty, the Bulgarian army wished to conflict with the Ottomans and retreated to a line coinciding with the pre-Balkan War border up to Adomush, and from there along a ridge of the Rhodope Mountains running west of Daridir and east of Mudun up to the Bulgarian-Greek border. After the retreat of both the Bulgarian and Greek armies, an autonomous state was declared with Ottoman support, in order to avoid Bulgarian rule after the Treaty of Bucharest, in which the Ottomans had not taken part. Under British pressure, the Bulgaria and the Ottomans signed the Treaty of Constantinople, which satisfied the Turkish claims to recognition of Eastern Thrace and recognized Western Thrace as part of Bulgaria. The Ottomans withdrew their forces, and by October 25, 1913, and the area was returned by Bulgaria. The southern part of the former provisional government was occupied in 1918 by French forces. This area was finally annexed by Greece in 1920 and has been part of that country ever since, except for the Bulgarian occupation between 1941 to 1944. The northern part of the former provisional government remained part of Bulgaria after 1919. The capital of provisional government of Western Thrace capital was Gümülcine, now Komotini, in Greece. President, Hocasola Efendi. Army, standing force of 29,170, largely infantry. Commander of the armed forces was Suleiman Askari Bey. Steering committee, Rishid Bey, Raif Effendi, Hafasullah Effendi, Nikodemos, Commissioner of the Diocese of Maronia, representing the Greeks, Mikirdic Tabakian, Armenian, Yaka Kasavi, Jew, Hafasgalip, and Eshraf Bey Kushkyobasai. As soon as independence was declared, the provisional government of Western Thrace determined the borders of the country, put up the new flags on the official buildings, commissioned a national anthem, raised an army, published its own stamps and passports, and prepared the budget of the new country. A Jewish citizen, Samuel Karaso, was tasked by the government with establishing an official press agency and to publish a newspaper named Müstakilesi, Independent, in Turkish and French. The Ottoman laws and regulations were adopted without any change, and the cases started to be heard by the court of Western Thrace. Currency 40 paras equals 1 piaster. The region of Thrace was under the rule of the Byzantine Empire from the time of the division of the Roman Empire into Eastern and Western empires in the early 4th century AD. The Ottoman Empire conquered most of the region in the 14th century and ruled it till the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913. During Ottoman rule, Thrace had a mixed population of Turks, Bulgarians, and Greeks. Minority populations of Pomaks, Jews, Armenians, and Roma also lived in the region. In 1878, northern Thrace was made into the province of Eastern Rumelia, which was annexed by the recently established Kingdom of Bulgaria in 1885. The terms Eastern Thrace and Western Thrace were used for the territories east and west of the Maritsa, River. During the First Balkan War, 1912 to 1913, the Balkan League, Serbia, Greece, Bulgaria, and Montenegro, fought against the Ottoman Empire and annexed most of its European territory, including Adrianople, Edirne. After gaining large amounts of territory from Ottoman Empire, Bulgaria, dissatisfied with its portion of the lands in the First Balkan War, and especially with Greek and Serbian gains in Macedonia, launched an attack on its former allies in June 1913. The attacks were driven back, and the Greek and Serbian armies invaded Bulgarian-held territory in return. At the same time, the Ottomans advanced into eastern Thrace and retook Adrianople, while Romania used the opportunity to invade Bulgaria from the north and advance against little opposition to within a short distance of the Bulgarian capital, Sofia. Isolated and surrounded by a more powerful coalition of opponents, Bulgaria was forced to agree to a truce and to peace negotiations to be held in the Romanian capital, Bucharest. The Treaty of Bucharest did not give the Bulgarians what they wished, territories in Macedonia. They were however awarded Western Thrace. On August 31 and September 1, 1913, the Turks in the region, under the leadership of Kuşkubasi Esref, rose up against in Gümülcine and Iskis. The revolutionaries declared the formation of the Provisional Government of Western Thrace. During this time, Greek forces continued to occupy its major cities, Porto Lagos, Komotini, and Alexandroupolis. The revolution declared their independence on 25 Sept. 1913, renamed the movement to be the Independent Government of Western Thrace. While Bulgaria agreed with the Balkan nations, they still needed to come to a separate agreement with the Ottoman Empire to firm the borders to the south. The Treaty of Constantinople, 29 September 1913, removed the last obstacles and the Bulgarian army entered the region on 25 to 30 October, thus ending the autonomous government. The region remained as a part of Bulgaria until the end of World War I, when it was taken under French protection, and ultimately awarded to and annexed by Greece in 1920. The stamp of Independent Government of Western Thrace. During this short time frame, the government issued 4 different sets of postage stamps. One set consisted of a set referred to as the Materiet issues, meaning autonomous in English. The stamps were simple, printed in Turkish, with the date 1913 and the denomination also printed in Roman characters. The first 2 stamps were issued with the inscription Provisional Government, but the rest were changed to Autonomous Government. The stamps were printed with a control mark, a red circle, in Gümülcine, or an oval, in Ditiagaç. Additionally, stamps of the Ottoman Empire were surcharged 1p on various different denominations, and stamps of Bulgaria and Greece were hand-stamped with a surcharge of various denominations. The surcharge for these issues were made with a hand stamp which required 2 parts. One or both of the parts can be found inverted, double or